evening, and welcome to this week's episode of the Paranormal Lens podcast presented by Jot and Nix Paranormal. I am Jamie White, and I'll be your host for this evening, along with Chad Thomas over there and Kirstin Tricano down there, at least the way I see things. I don't know where you guys really are, but we're here. Yay! We made it back.
Somehow.
Right. Well, we had a weekend in between the last time, and we did some stuff. So, what's going on with you guys?
I'm just trying to figure out what's going on with the tech tonight. That's all.
Man, if only someone on that side of the screen knew what happens. I don't know.
Anyway, it's been a week. We had an investigation this weekend.
We did.
Yeah.
We sure did. We ended our residency as well. So I was thinking about this today, guys. Maybe you'll agree. Now I know how Taylor Swift felt coming off the Eras tour.
Yeah.
That sense of relief. They'd take a break for a little while, sit back.
For now.
Spend my millions.
You must have been doing something different than I was.
You got millions?
By millions, I mean dollar bills. I don't know. It was a little melancholy, a little bittersweet. The end of an era for 5 long years of a regular reoccurrence at Booby's Brewery. So, it was a little weird saying goodbye.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we can't say we'll never go back. Obviously, that'd be foolish. But as far as a regular thing, at least we won't be. And we've teased this on our social page earlier today. But there's another site in the works, a different location, perhaps. So we know what it is, but we're not going to share until it becomes official. Of course, it would be very presumptive and ahead of putting the cart in front of the horse, as they say.
Yeah.
But hopefully something new for us in the new year to get us going in a different direction. So more to come.
Yep.
Other than that, how was your week? Kirstin, what's going on?
I mean, it's been pretty much the same. Just work and raising a 4-month-old.
Is she training you yet?
I mean, she's gotten to where she's now extremely talkative. No idea what she's saying, but you know what? It's a conversation.
Uh-huh.
That's basically going to be all the way through the teenage years.
Yeah. We have yet to read her new book to her yet, so that's the plan tomorrow.
Okay. That came from her new favorite uncle, of course.
Absolutely. I showed that book to Alex, and he absolutely loves it.
Oh, cool. Well, more to come there. We love spoiling babies and kids.
Perfect.
In general. We got you. There's so much content out there.
Yeah.
Well, Chad, what about you? Anything new?
I told you just before Thanksgiving, the show I was working on with the school wrapped up, and I'm head underwater already in the next show. So
yeah,
the spring musical is
weary.
Yeah. So, but yeah, other than that and work, just same old. I mean, the college kid's getting ready to come home soon. We're not sure when yet, but
yeah, I just saw the schedule. The last day of classes is next Friday. So,
this Friday is
Friday. I'm sorry, it's this Friday. So I'm assuming sometime this weekend we'll see another human show up at one of our houses.
Maybe
a familiar face. Yeah, maybe. Right.
So.
Right. Might get a better offer.
So anyway, what about you? Anything fun going on?
Absolutely not.
All right.
The brewery, was a lot this weekend. It was busy. We had a lot of guests. Very full house. And just took the day Sunday to do the stuff that didn't get done on Saturday. The grocery store, the errand things of life, the boring minutia stuff, and then back at it, for the work week. So no complaints, nothing new, nothing really to report. So stop babbling and start talking about what we're here for.
All right.
So, a while back in season 1, we did an episode on urban legends. And I took that episode and I wanted to to kind of talk about um, obvious ones, maybe some anyway. Um,
Hmm.
Bloody hook on the side of the car and all that stuff. The disappearing hitchhiker, but I want to move around the country as well, and talk about them, not just here. And then in season two, we did an international version. And what I found really interesting in researching it was that there are the same but yet uniquely different ones. Like the premises are the same, but they're unique to the regions of the world they're from. And some are cultural, of course, but many are just the same version, the similar story version of something we're familiar with here in the US. And I thought that was really interesting. And then, you know, we are in South Central Pennsylvania here in the U.S. So wherever you are in the world, it's a mixed bag of cultures and um, history. So we have some unique ones here. And I was talking with a coworker, our guest tonight, Corey Aspril, and he every time I talk to him, he's like, "Hey, do you know about this thing? Hey, you know about this thing? Hey, you know about this thing?" And like, oh my god, dude. Uh, After a while, I was just like, "Hey, let's hold on. Let's just do an episode on local urban legends. Let's get you on. You are a knowledge expert, and he really is in a very cool way. Uh, and let's just go with it and take us wherever you want it to go." And the first thing he didn't pause. He went, "Yep, I'll do it."
Uh-huh.
And there we go. So let me tell you a little bit about Corey. We'll introduce him and we'll bring him on, and then we'll go from there and we'll ride. So first of all, Corey Aspril is a photographer turned local legend hunter, born and raised in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. He is a graduate of Lampeter Strasburg High School and Elizabethtown College's class of 2015. Corey spends his days behind the lens, but when the sun goes down, his focus shifts to the unexplained. By night, he's deep in research, tracking down forgotten lore from across Lancaster County and the wider Pennsylvania region, or working on the book he hopes to publish. Corey never truly believed in ghosts until 2017, when an accidental photograph on the Gettysburg battlefield captured something he still can't explain. Since that moment, he's been chasing the truth behind local legends, investigating how these stories evolve, how they shape the communities around them, and why no two accounts are ever quite the same. Without further ado, here's Corey. Dude, you made it!
Yes. I did. By the way, you're in the car with me for 4 hours. That's what you get. You get a bunch of stories all the time.
I know, right? Well, it was actually like 8 hours each way.
Yeah, 8 hours. Oh, we did stop for a little bit, so about 4 hours there, 4 hours.
Dude, you didn't stop talking when we stopped. So, it was even more.
That's true.
And then a couple days to on location. We drove out to Cincinnati. I think everybody heard that a couple weeks ago, back in October. Um, did a road trip, a side quest down to Moundsville. Went through the prison, the West Virginia Penitentiary. Did the mound itself, the burial ground across the street.
Mm-hmm.
All adding into all of this, I guess, too. So it was a fun trip. I think it might have been the best business trip you ever had. I'm sure of it.
Oh yeah, by far.
It's all business all the time.
Yeah, of course.
Our bosses might be listening. We have to say that. We're obligated.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, I don't know where to start here, I guess, but how did you get started? I obviously your pilot was a little bit, but
so I guess you could say it started when I was 6 years old. That's when I started to get a little bit interested in legends. There are like little legends and haunted things. When I first moved to my dad's house, that is right now, there was actually a house by there that was like broken down, no paint on it, all brown. And of course, every time we went by there, my parents would be like, "Oh, that's a haunted house." And then that kind of sparked my interest. And then in high school, of course, you get those nights where everyone's like, "Hey, let's go to this haunted place." Except for back in like 2008, the internet was not very reliable, and you end up in a totally different place. Like I remember, I think when I was a sophomore in high school, we were trying to find Shanksbury, and that has a local legend there, and we ended up in Maryland for some reason. So it was totally a different direction.
right. Sure.
So then after that, of course, Gettysburg, and then around my time at Fox 43, I started going into like stories during the Halloween season and interviewing some people, like like in like Gettysburg at the Farnsworth House and the Columbia Dungeon. That's kind of what piqued my interest, and I started just researching after that a lot.
One of the key word there, and one of the things I think is most important in all of this process is the research.
Yeah,
And because there's a lot there's a lot that gets said, but there's not always a lot that's documented. But documentation tends to be the reliable source versus the oral
yeah,
tradition or oral history that's in the whisper down the lane or telephone game, situation of stories being told over told. Because every time it's the version of the version,
yeah.
and the person telling tends to be the hero of the story, so it gets modified.
Yes,
Uh, you know, Usually, at least when something's permanent as far as a written record, then at least there's a source that you can cite that's trusted. So,
yeah,
and there is, if you dig deep enough, there usually is something. It's just you got to find it. And
yeah,
local stuff is harder, of course. Some of the more obscure things. So, but yeah, it's all that. That doesn't sound unusual for a lot of us in the field as well. We all have our catalyst spot. Like the thing that got us started, and then you know some sideways adventures. Um, you know,
very sideways adventures.
Hmm.
Very,
um, and well, some can say that it's how the stories are getting chased off places and things too. So
yeah,
the right and the wrong way to go about the process, but um, finding something you love and doing it. This is a lifelong adventure. It can
yeah.
be.
That's for me almost every other night when I get a chance. Just go on and dig in some archives. But it gets harder and harder because more and more stories you find, less and less there are. But
Sure.
once in a while you do come across a couple gems. So actually the other day I was actually using Gemini on Google AI. I said, hey, find me something really, really like hidden haunted wise. And I actually found about three things. Still didn't really look into them yet, but there's about three things that actually came up that I've never heard of.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm still looking at that. So hopefully I can get back to you guys and give you another story at some point.
Yeah, we'll do another. We'll
Yeah,
do
yeah.
volume 2 or
Trust
5.
me, I got plenty. I got plenty.
Right? Hey, I'm in. See, this is how easy it is. Like, okay.
Yeah,
Well, I know
A night that we don't have to do research is a good night.
yeah.
every week. Go.
Well, fortunately, I love doing it. So I just like going down that rabbit hole for a while, which, at points I'm sitting there and my wife's like, hey, you haven't talked to me for like about 2 hours. What's going on? Like, oh, I found like a lead for something and I just keep going.
Hmm.
You really got to look up every once in a while, though, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But before we get into some of the stories you have,
Yeah.
I'm gonna share this because I think it's important as far as setting some parameter for what an urban legend is. So this is directly from Britannica.com. Okay, urban legends are modern folklore that often blend truth and fiction, characterized by their unverifiable nature, sensational storytelling, and cultural relevance. There are some key characteristics. That's the word I want. Characteristics. The first is it has an unverifiable nature. Urban legends are often based on hearsay and are difficult to verify. They typically involve stories that are presented as true but lack concrete evidence to support their claims. The second, there's exaggeration and distortion. These stories frequently undergo exaggeration or distortion over time, making them more sensational and intriguing. This transformation can lead to multiple variations of the same legend, each with slight differences. There are contemporary themes. Urban legends often reflect modern societal concerns such as technology, crime, and health issues. They are typically set in familiar urban or suburban environments, making them relatable to a wide audience. They have cautionary tales. Many urban legends serve as cautionary tales, warning listeners about potential dangers or moral lessons. They often involve unexpected consequences or ironic twists that highlight societal fears or anxieties. There's word of mouth and digital spread. Traditionally shared through oral storytelling, urban legends have adopted to more modern communication methods, spreading rapidly through social media, emails, and other digital platforms. There are familiar settings and characters. Urban legends often feature recognizable locations and archetypal characters such as teenagers or families, which enhance their reliability and appeal. And lastly, there's cultural reflection. These legends often reflect the cultural values and beliefs of the society in which they circulate, adapting to local contexts while maintaining core themes. Put all that in thought while we talk about these, because I think we'll
Yeah.
see
Hmm.
those threads all
Yeah.
throughout. And that's kind of what I was alluding to earlier with the domestic urban legends in Volume One and the international ones in Volume Two. There's so many things that are seemed, the same. It's just they're set in different places and related to the culture of that particular region of the world. And there's always a moral to the story.
Yeah, we talked about this before. Of course, a lot of the ones are Lady in White. That seems to come up constantly,
Hmm.
Yep.
constantly, and uh, yeah, stuff like that, and the ghost dogs, and
Yep.
they're like usually it revolves around tragedy. Usually,
Yep.
I agree. All right.
Let's dig into it.
all right, let's dig into it. So I guess we'll start with Central PA. Well, in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, Hunsuckers Bridge. I think it's actually Hunsuckers Bridge. I think I might have made a little bit of a misspelling there, but this one is a little bit, peculiar because it has to do with an Amish ghost. So a lot of times when I look this up, it was either between this bridge or Pinetown Bridge. That's very close. And the nickname for this bridge is actually Mondale. Mondale Bridge is the actual legend of Mondale Bridge. So looking into it, I really didn't see much about Pinetown at all or anything related to Pinetown when it came to farms around there. But the legend goes that there was an Amish girl who was actually playing around that creek right there, and I believe that's the Little Conestoga Creek. And her ball fell into the creek, and she went in after it and drowned. Now, of course, there's a lot of farmland. You're gonna see a lot of Amish around there. And the legend is, if you actually go in at midnight with your car, park it, turn your car off, the ghost of this little girl will actually come into your car, sit down, and then disappear. Or you just hear her laughing. That's as much as I could dig up. I've tried before, but I don't suggest it. I mean, that's a bridge with constant cars coming over it. But when it comes to that, yeah, like I said, like culture wise, there's a lot of Amish community around here, and that comes about. And really, that's it for this one. It was a pretty short one. I couldn't find too much about it other than farms that are located around here, uh, but no records of death either. So I think this was more of a kind of like a word of mouth kind of thing. I heard from friends, and I know Lancaster Online has done a little bit of a video of it before too. And I think his last name was Huber, I think, and he went on there too. But it still don't nothing happened. But there are a lot of instances where I have been told that they've actually seen this ghost either walk by the bridge or actually hang out alongside that creek. And
Cool.
that's yeah, and then that's the word of mouth right there for that.
All right.
But continuing on with bridges, I guess, right?
Hmm.
Lots of bridges. I mean, hey, there's a lot of covered bridges in Lancaster County. I believe it's over 50. And this one right here, this one I would say is probably the hardest to look up. So this is a very word of mouth from all peers. But this is when I was in high school. I actually was sitting there one day, and it's actually clicked in my head when I was looking up stuff for hauntings or local legends. And I remember it kind of came about that this one time I was out with some friends, and they're like, "Hey, you want to go to Haunted Bridge?" And I was like, "Yeah." I was like, so throughout that week, I kept hearing this from other people, like different people that didn't even know each other. So a lot of people have been like going to here. So I went there with my friends, and the legend was that back in the 1990s, a woman hung herself from there, from the rafters. Now, that's kind of like normal start of a haunting story. Now,
Mm-hmm.
here's the weird part. If you see in that picture right there, that's apparently that was an etching made from the ghost. So that's the legend right there. Is the ghost actually made that etching to kind of like leave an imprint on her story there. So I guess her memory wouldn't die. And looking at this one, I actually did a little bit of research, and about the only thing I could think of is that I could find was back in 1987. There was actually a flood that actually destroyed this bridge, and then was built back in around the I think 1990s. So, and there's a lot of traffic there too. Once again, there's a lot of houses around the area, and that there's actually a mill right by there, Baumgartner's like mill, which is pretty famous. Which there's actually really another story around there where he actually had Baumgartner himself actually had a feud with another mill owner, but that's about as much from that. But like you said, a lot of word of mouth here coming in. There's not really too much to go off of based off of what teenagers said to me when I was in high school.
Mm-hmm. Now, where is this one?
So this is actually in Conestoga Township.
Okay.
It's actually Baumgartner's Bridge Road.
Okay, I'm
So,
familiar. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, you go right back by there. You can actually get out and walk there. They actually have one of those panels there, kind of telling the history about Baumgartner's mill right there. But yeah, when I went there, we got to walk around. We actually got to look at it. Um, when looking at the etching, I couldn't really tell whether it was a tour or not, or maybe back when they were storing the bridge, maybe somebody might have actually etched this in. But like, I'm guessing maybe someone went by and one day and maybe heard something from one of the locals about what happened at this bridge, and maybe that about the ghost etching that in there.
All right. Well, it looks like Bert here was one of those potential locals. Now, I don't believe they still live there, but
Yeah.
that close. But and there it is. There's it's actually on Covered Bridge Road.
Oh, Car Bridge Road, yes. Because I know there's actually a Baumgartner's Road somewhere around there. I think it leads to it, or is maybe connected to it.
Okay. Well, I'm where I live. I have two covered bridges within a mile and a half of my house, and they are both the bridges are named after the roads they're on. The roads are named after the bridges. I don't know
Yeah,
which way. Actually, one of them is probably not. It's a family name road, but Bridge Valley Road. It's in the name, so
Mm-hmm.
it's Bridge Valley, and that's my neighborhood actually. It's named after it as well. So you're right. There are so many bridges, and they all have. I think they all have a story. Like I really
yes,
do.
yes,
And I'm sure you'll get to some more of that. But
yeah,
the more I'm thinking about it, like there's this, there's that, and there's always because there's water, right,
yeah,
and therefore there's risks. And kids tend to play around them, so there's always a story about a child in some way or another.
yeah,
Um, a lot of times if you leave your vehicle, something happens because it's an enclosure. First of all,
yeah,
so your senses are off a little bit. You have a heightened sense around them, of something, because it's spooky at night, and the bridge and all this stuff. And water is believed to bring activity, right? So
yeah.
or heightened activity. So running water. So there's the whole process there. So maybe there is something to it. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Possibly.
It's a lot of. I mean, there's a lot of bridges in Lancaster that have stories. Like you said, up where you live at. There's another one called I think it's the Seagrist.
Seagrist. Yep.
Yeah, Seagrist Covered Bridge. There's a little legend there of two guys actually living under there back in I think the 1800s. They actually, if you go under the bridge, you can actually see uh, scriptures that they actually have mounted on the bridge under there. Because apparently they were living there, and they were working for the farm right over there.
I crossed that bridge is literally right behind my house, so I crossed
Yeah,
it.
yeah, check it out sometime.
Now I'm gonna have to stop. Thanks.
I think there's a bench also under there too that you can sit on. Can't remember or not, but
Well, Jamie, I'm sure you have somebody who will be happy to go explore with you.
It's true.
So,
Well, you mean my dog, right?
well,
She's all about it.
well,
No, but yeah, yes, I know who you mean. So
mhm.
yeah, um, with well, with that one, uh, I am related to the Segrists, who still have a farm on Segrist Road, hence the
okay.
name. Um, and in the back end of their property, there is a cottage that is literally on the creek, and you can see the bridge from the cottage. I remember being out there as a kid, a teenager. And to be honest, that's where we went to do things that we shouldn't be doing, like underage drinking and stuff. But we were in a place where we were pretty safe. You know,
Mhm.
you couldn't really leave once you got there. Um, but that whole the bridge is there, the creek is there, and the creek meanders through all of the properties around here. It seems it is still the Conestoga, which is just forever long creek that runs like all across the county into the Conestoga River. So it gets confusing which Conestoga we're dealing with.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But I wish I would have known then what I know right now. So I would have
Yeah.
been back in the day.
That was an accidental one that I actually came across. Had no intention of. I wasn't even looking up bridges or anything, and all of a sudden just popped up. It's the only place I saw was I think one or two websites.
Cool.
Okay. Well, very cool.
All right.
But speaking of some more bridges, we got the Rockville Bridge. Sorry, Rockville Bridge. Um, this one actually has a couple different names. Other than Rockville, it's actually also named Long Lane Bridge. There is actually a legend of Long Lane Bridge where a male decided to hang his whole family under it. Now, when I was looking that one up, it actually came up on an old Millersville College newspaper article I found, and as far as I can see, the only bridge on Long Lane is that one. And it said once again, it said it's a covered bridge. Well, as you can see in the picture right there, it's metal now. Now that's because back in 1932 it actually changed. They actually did the bridge. I believe there was some water damage or weather damage, and this other legend that has to do with it actually has a little bit more of you know facts to it. There was actually a mill there long ago. I guess it was on the north side of the bridge, and this is back in the 1840s. So back then, they would, of course, have their wood be carried by horses in a carriage. Well, they had one employee that was not very nice to animals in general and would whip the horses constantly and abuse them. And one day when it was, I believe, snowing or raining, he was going across the bridge, and I'm guessing that this is what was said was the horses had enough. So they actually went on a rampage, went into the bridge, and then went into the mill, and the man was actually killed on impact. So the legend of it is that if you're there at midnight, like a lot of local legends, you'll hear him actually yelling and whipping the horses if you're standing right by the bridge. That's another one where you gotta stay there till midnight.
Why does everything have to happen at midnight? Jeez.
Hey, at
8
least
p.m.,
at least it's not 3 a.m.
Yeah, I was saying
Yeah,
it's at
fair.
3 a.m. Yeah,
All right, it's true.
yeah, it's always at midnight. I mean, there's a similar one like that too, right by New Danville Pike. Same thing.
Mm-hmm.
You there at midnight, you hear a carriage go by and someone yelling and whipping a horse. So it's no,
Must be like the afternoon,
yeah,
please.
Yeah. Can we do like
only
3
at night.
p.m.? I'm happy there
You can't see anything.
on a sunny day
Yeah.
when it's warm.
But yeah, this one actually, there was actually a mill there back in the 1840s. I think it was actually broken down around the 1860s, and I don't think there's nothing left there now. Um, except for a fishing area that PA Fish and Boat have over there. That's about it. But this one's fairly common when it comes to like a lot of like horse drawn like carriages areas, especially 1800s. That's all everyone ever had.
Right. Bert's also calling out that you need the full moon in the story too at midnight.
Yeah.
No, this one does not require the full moon.
Well, that's good. You don't have to walk around the bridge 7 times or anything like that.
Nope. No,
Hey,
this
we've
is
done that. Well,
just sit out there, you'll hear something.
All right.
All
so
right.
wait, werewolf, Chad. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I've actually haven't gone out to this one. I went fishing out there before, but not at night. It gets terribly dark out there where you can't see anything.
Sounds like the perfect time for a road trip, doesn't it, Jamie?
One thing that's actually scary.
let's
One
go.
thing that's very scary over there is that little house you see right there on the picture. You actually have a mannequin staring at you.
Ew.
So
No.
if you're not scared from the guy, if you're hearing the horse go across, you can get scared by that.
Sure.
Yeah.
At least they have a sense of humor. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. All right.
All right, we can go on to the next story. This one is a little more north. Purple Light Bridge up in E-Town. This was a little bit harder to find too. Jimmy knows that I like to find the ones that aren't very well known. I like to find the ones that you have to dig for, because to me, I feel like they make it they're a little more special. So this one actually gets very confused by people because there's 2 bridges around this railroad here. There is one where you get on to the train at the train station, and then there's one a little bit down farther. I forget what road it is, but if you're wondering which actual bridge it is, it's actually the one near down the road near like construction and some mechanical areas. But anyway, this one actually started in the 1930s. This legend actually came from a train crash. Now, a lot of people beginning with the story said that a kid actually got hit by a train down by the railroad, down by this bridge. And once again, go there at midnight, you'll see a purple light hovering on the tracks near that bridge. And another story with it has to do with the hobo, back in the 1800s, just walking and then gets hit by a train, and the purple light's his spirit, just wandering in the track still. Well, I did a little bit digging into the U.S. Archives of Trains, and there's a bit of truth to this. Back in 1918, there's actually a crash right at that spot, and there was a couple of injuries. There's 18 injuries, and 3 employees that were injured as well, and it killed 2 passengers. One of them happened to be a young boy. So that article there must have traveled, I guess, through word of mouth through the 1930s, and apparently, I'm guessing somebody might have been walking on the railroad tracks at night, saw a purple light. Ever since then, a lot of people have been trying to go down to the railroad tracks, which you shouldn't be doing at night. But there's actually someone on YouTube that actually went at night and was looking for it. Didn't get anything on camera, but word of mouth when I was in college was, some of these college students would go out there and they saw a purple light.
Okay.
And that's the legend right there.
All right. A question then: is this the Conrail line that runs along the river, or is this the Amtrak line that runs to Lancaster and Harrisburg?
Amtrak, Lancaster to Harrisburg.
Okay.
I believe the actual name of the road where that bridge is Bossler Road.
Okay.
That's right over there. That's one of the legends in E-Town, but that's actually the last bridge story for you guys tonight.
Okay. Well, before we go off the bridges, I'm going to bring up a picture that Heather sent us.
Nice.
In this one, you can see the mill in the background.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool.
So if you look on actually the right side there, that's where that etching's at, right in the archway there.
Okay.
Cool. So Heather, thanks for sending that to us.
So, hold on before we do go on. The purple light, we have experience with a blue light,
Okay.
and in the Haldeman Mansion specifically, but in other locations, it's common to see a blue light as well. So,
Yeah.
they're not the same color, obviously, but
Yeah.
in a sense of a hue, a tint of coloration, like they're similar enough that there may be some correlation or some similarity there.
Mm-hmm.
But it's always interesting when that aura element comes into the conversation, with a visualization like that. So, and out there's nothing, it's not
Yeah.
like cars to create light play. There's not a lot of nobody lives up against the tracks. So, it's not like someone's got their floodlight on in the backyard
Right.
causing overshadow and such. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jamie, they are pretty close in wavelength.
no,
Blue and ultra. The purple's
Okay.
close to the ultraviolet light, so they are fairly close in
familiar.
wavelengths.
Okay.
There are some similarities there.
Yeah, it's kind of what I was aiming at, like that.
Yeah.
There's something where they could be something the same kind of idea.
Mhm.
And Bert
Yeah.
just dropped a comment too here that he captured the one at Haldeman in an image. So, um, Bert, Heather figured out how to send us pictures. So, just saying, uh,
I
you
do
can
remember.
find it. You got time. Uh, that's one that inside the house there, inside the building is where we saw it, but it was also visible out in the side yard on the south side of the property as well, between the building and the summer kitchen in that area, on the outside of the property as well. But yeah, it was quite regular there. Um,
Cool.
it's interesting. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I've also heard of people actually running towards the light for it to just disappear. Obviously, I mean that's
Oh,
pretty
there's so many jokes.
too, like pretty typical.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, here we got Hell's Funnel. This one's one of my more favorite ones. This is one I went to in high school when it was actually still looking like this. Now it's actually a redone house, and somebody actually lives on this property.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, I know, bummer, right? I mean, so the legend is actually there's a couple legends here, but
Okay.
there are some based in fact. So one of the legends that goes the furthest back is a person actually owned the mill, and he was actually we're using a saw the one day, and actually cut his hand off. Now he had no one there working with him, and he actually ran back to his house to tell his wife to I believe either call an ambulance or help him somehow. But he actually ended up bleeding out on the front deck and just dying right there because back it was in the 1800s apparently is what the legend says, and of course there's no real hospitals around at that time, so he was just basically out of luck.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently his spirit would walk around the area, especially around the pond there. A lot of times I heard a lot of spirits being around the pond. And another one was that, someone once again cut his hand off and then, hung himself because he couldn't work anymore. I heard that from a friend back in high school too. And the most gruesome one, and this is the one I've heard most often, was that a guy was actually working there, but there's actually other employees there too. And like every other story with it, he cuts his hand off using a saw blade. So he actually gets let go. He survives in this one, gets let go, and gets into this terrible rage and he takes a hatchet with one arm and chops up all the employees. And instead, with all those lost souls there, it created a funnel to hell. So that's where that started to come from. And there's some other ones too that include a woman in white. I remember seeing on Uncharted Lancaster actually someone showing a picture of possibly a woman in white when he was there. And in the 70s and 80s, this is pretty crazy one too. They actually claim that that people would go there, and a man with a hatchet would not come out of the not of the mill house, but would come actually from under the bridge and attack them. So there's that, and there's also blue light that you can see at night in one of the windows. That's one of the other ones, and a lot of people have also reported seeing a man with a hook for a hand, which I'm pretty sure I've heard that one pretty commonly, but usually with legends like that, it was usually actually over in the UK, which is pretty interesting. Um, and another one was a paper boat just floating in the pond, like out of nowhere. Like the people were just walking around, and a paper boat came out, and that kind of creeped them out. Now, my experience there was I went there one night. It was, I believe, it was in the summer. Of course, a couple of teenagers. You got nothing to do in the summer, so you go out there, and we walked around, went into the basement. It's just an old dusty basement. A couple of drug paraphernalia down there from people, having fun back there. And as we were leaving, I remember them using a spotlight, and then one of the guys just started yelling. And I'm like, what's going on? What's going on? So apparently they saw somebody in the basement with a red cloak, which was pretty odd to me. I've never heard that one before. And from another person I've heard from is they actually went camping there at night with their uncle, which is, great place to go camping, I guess, right? Um, he went there and he claims that he had a hand from the shadows come out and try and grab him. So with those, the stories and legends aren't really true when it comes to historical facts, but there is death that comes with this mill. So back in the 1800s, it was actually owned by Benjamin Gonder, which he usually owned a lot of railroads. And if you go to Strasbourg and see the big mansion on Main Street, he owned that too.
Yep.
He actually sold it to an Aldous Sides, and he had two sons, both who got mauled up by the water wheel blades within 2 weeks of each other. So there was a little bit of death facts there.
Mm-hmm. But a lot of the ones with the hands,
yeah,
are probably, this is that lesson that comes with it. You've got to be careful when you're at the sawmill, because if not, you'll lose your hand and end up haunting it forever. Blah blah blah, that sort of thing. So, I mean, it seems pretty like a pretty typical thing for a sawmill legend.
Sure. Well, and that's the thing about the Red Mill, right? The stories there, the kids who were used to get into the equipment they were using, and that's a grist mill, not a sawmill. Idea there though is that there's mechanical stuff happening. Things they have small pieces and parts. Small hands reach in better to do things. Unfortunately, they get caught, hurt as well, maimed, killed. The idea, and there's no OSHA for safety standards back in the day, so things happened, and how much of it could have happened that wasn't documented. That's the part of it we'll probably never know.
Yeah.
But the sensationalism when someone, the story of the sensational story comes though with, the loss of the hand, and then the haunt. Like that's the tale. But there's got to be truths in this to get that far, and you're showing some of that.
Yeah, as far as like I said, let me backtrack onto that. Like the truth of the history that we know of is that. Now, whether something happened before Aldous Sides or B.B. Gonder, own that maybe something did happen. Maybe there's something there that, like you said, just wasn't documented.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you when you got to get things done, you kind of skips the safety stuff to get things done faster, more quick, whatever. You got to get your quota. You're just going to go as fast as you can, and then, if something happens, everybody thinks they're fine until they're not.
Yeah.
Right? It's like
I
when the
do
shop
remember,
teacher's like, the
yeah,
shop teacher's always like, "I've got 3 things to tell you throughout this class." You know?
I do
So
remember one thing from it though that it just came up in my head. So when you were going there, I remember being told in the car that all these trees when you're going into Sides Mill Road, which the road's named after all the sides, the trees would go like this. Now I didn't believe it at first until I actually go there. When it's dark out, it does kind of make the optical illusion, but during the day they're just kind of just leaned just a little bit, like just a regular tree lean or whatever like that.
well, again, it's the sensationalism of it, and it gives you that expectation that because of that, you get that visualization. It
Yeah.
heightens your senses already. You're prepared for something. Therefore, something is going to happen. Versus, well, it's just a tree. You
Yeah.
know, so I get it, and we've all been there.
Yeah.
We go into places all the time. That's I think that's kind of the tempering you have to have as a paranormal investigator, ghost hunter, whatever you want to call yourself in the field. Because we do know things about the places we go to. That we rarely go sight unseen or blind. At least not in the sense of the activity. We know history, about the place because it's public record. And, sometimes even that alone is enough just to get your senses up to a place of heightened it and then,
Yeah.
the expectation, especially if you're there for the pop and wow factor,
Yeah.
the jump scares and all that stuff, that people tend to have or want to have and I'll call that a ghost hunter, to be clear. Um, I get that. And that's cool. I have no issue with any of that. But, even the most seasoned investigator gets spooked sometimes.
Yeah.
It happens. All right. Well, Hell's Funnel. That sounds like,
Yeah.
like we're going to hang out. It's
Jamie,
interesting at somebody's house now too.
yeah,
And that's not a bad thing. Especially not if you know the people.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
Exactly. I mean,
you're really curious to see who that is.
yeah, from like where I was told the people who actually commented, because Uncharted Lancaster also has this one too on there. I know the people that live there commented too that they haven't had any, issues or any ghostly activity at all either. So like for me, it's just like do is there like kind of like a move on thing when like things get rebuilt or what happens there because we have someone there that lives there
hmm
and they're not experiencing anything, but some people have in the past.
well, and this goes back to you have to the spirit has to want you to see it as well.
Yeah,
You may want to see it, but everybody has their time to see things and not to see things, and it may not be time for them to see the spirit or understand it or be exposed to it. And in the future, it may happen or it may not. So
Yeah. Or they could be like me and be unsensitive.
there's that.
There's that.
So, well, cool.
right.
Want to jump to the next one?
Yeah, let's go. So this one, Laughing Annie. This is possibly one of my favorite ones in Lancaster County by far, because I've been hearing about this one since I was probably about 7 years old. It actually started with a friend, in a car coming from Strasburg. From I think it was one of the Strasburg parades back in early 2000s, and he was like, "Hey, look at the window, see if you see Laughing Annie." And it's like, "What are you talking about?" So then you dig into some research, and this is kind of how it goes. Back around 1905, sorry, back in 1900, there was a family there called the Gonder family, and B.B. Gonder, Benjamin Gonder, who actually, like I said in the last story, owned sorry, Hell's Funnel at one point, um, lived there across the street from this mansion before it was built. So he was a railroad tycoon, and you know, at the time in 1900, he would be in a house right across the street, and he lived there with himself, his wife, his children, and his estranged sister Annie, who Mary, Benjamin's wife, thought it was an embarrassment because she had an awkward personality, and one thing she was very well known for was laughing at men who came over to visit, especially ones that she found attractive. Mary thought that was embarrassing. So in 1905, when the house was complete being built, they actually moved over there, but Annie herself was actually barred from it. She was not allowed to come. She had to live in the old house. Some people actually have told me that they believe that she actually got put in the shed in the back of the mansion and was abused. I don't know how true that is. But before they were moving the house, apparently out in the middle of the road, it was either with Benjamin or Mary, and he had a fight with them about not being able to live in the house. So, from the legend, she stayed in the house across the street and looked at the house every day because she was very sad about not being able to live in this house.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look closely on the top of the circular pillars right there on the house, there's some stucco there with some shapes on it. Now she would look at these stucco shapes, and she thought that these shapes would make faces that were laughing at her and were mocking her. And she claimed that Mary put them there like that to mock her as well. So after a couple years, and about I think the 1920s, Benjamin Gonder actually died in the house from a heart attack. Now, from this, Annie was heartbroken because BB was about the only person that was nice to her throughout the whole community, especially not Mary. Mary was absolutely terrible to her. So she actually became depressed. And one day, I think in May, let me see real quick. I think it was May 20. Sorry, yeah, May 28th, 1918. Sorry, BB died in 1916. And she left the house one day and went down to Peckway Creek and drowned herself. Now, ever since then, if you sorry, let me back up a little bit. When she died, the only people left of her family was, of course, Mary and the kids. Well, Mary, still thinking that she was a big embarrassment, and if you look at the picture, actually had her headstone facing away from the family, kind of as like a last minute mock of your embarrassment. You don't even get the deserve to look at the family when you're dead. So, and shortly after that, in the house, men and only men have heard laughter, seen a woman walking throughout the house, and women have not seen anything at all. And also at night, if you go to the cemetery, apparently, if you're right by her grave, you can actually see a shadow figure standing above that grave, only the door away. Now, here's the kicker: with men only seeing Annie and hearing her in the house, only men have died there by heart attack, 5 including Benjamin. So a lot of people think since Annie would laugh at attractive men, she decided to give them heart attacks to take them to the afterlife with her. And that's the legend of that. And like I said with my friend, every time, even in high school, when we pass the house with our car, he'd be looking up and saying, "Hey, look in the window. You might see Annie," because apparently Annie will be staring back at you from one of the windows, one of the upper windows where the stucco was.
I'm not calling road trip for this one.
Well, Bert beat you to it. Bert wants to know.
I'm not calling it. I don't want to go.
Do you know if it is possible to investigate the house?
As far as I know, the last time it was open to the public was some time a little bit ago for Halloween. I think somebody owns it right now, but I've never actually looked into actually investigating the house. But would I absolutely love to if I could? Oh, absolutely, I would go. I would take that chance, probably.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, that one's very unique because a lot of those people and what happened is actually documented, and you can actually see that at the Historical Society of Strasbourg.
Cool.
Well, and I'm not trying to debunk this by any means, but
Yeah, yeah,
you're talking the early 1900s.
yeah,
And it's still in the window where there isn't a lot of emergency medical services. Um, there is regional medical support still,
yeah,
as far as, there's not a hospital in every community. There's likely a doctor somewhere in town, and they would have made a house call.
yeah,
But there may not have been a way to get a hold of somebody. So, and a heart attack's a heart attack. I mean,
Hmm.
that's a lot of reasons why they can be, why they happen.
yeah.
Diet, exercise, smoking was prevalent.
Yeah, see,
Drinking was common.
Hmm.
The poor health choices, red meat at every meal. Stuff we know better than now.
yeah,
So I don't take anything away from this being Annie
yeah,
at all, but there is also nothing it may be common for the era as well.
yeah,
But only men is something. I mean, that's
yeah.
really interesting.
Yeah, it's just like it's very interesting because it's like if you want to investigate, do you take that risk? But the only way you're going to find out is if a man goes anyway, because that's the only kind of people who see it
Right.
or hear anything. So it's. I mean, I don't know anybody who's actually like been in there. I know somebody owns it, but that's as far as I know. Um, yeah, it's branching off that. That's actually what I'm writing my book about. Is kind of like how legends like this kind of spread across the town. And I can tell you, anybody knows the story in Strasburg. I even told my friend the other day. He goes, "Hey, I remember that when I was 5. My parents told me about that." So, like you said, it's a cultural thing where it becomes embedded in the town.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Oh, sure. And there's always that one house,
Yeah,
that everybody knows is the place.
Yeah, I grew up in that house.
Yeah,
Not
you
that
did,
house,
right?
but everybody knew
oh
about the
man,
fun house. Yeah.
you definitely have to tell me that sometime, Chad. I gotta hear those stories.
There's an episode on the.
Oh, there's okay. So I probably must have missed that one.
I'll send you the link to it, Corey.
All right, sounds good. Love it. All right, I guess moving on back up to E Town.
All right.
All right.
The E Town Hell House. This one took a while to find because this was another one where I was told about it when I was younger. This is when I was in college at E Town. My brother actually told me about this, that there was a haunted house off of North Chickies Road, which I feel like is more towards Mannheim if you go on that road. But I think it's still considered E Town area. But he told me basically if you go by the house, you'll hear screams of a woman and her children being burned alive. So looking through it, the legend that I found was that a long time ago, a man actually built the house, was a farmer, and the one night he just went mad either because of some people say possession of a demon, and some people say he found out that his wife was cheating on him, and he hacked the woman and the newborn baby that she just had, and then lit the house on fire. Now, I drove past this house before and actually seen some charred areas, especially in the back there. I mean, the property's private, obviously, so I was just driving by and kind of had to use binoculars or whatever to figure out how burnt this house was because I was very interested. And there's a lot of legends that go into this one, and it just keeps going every time I look more and more into this. I've actually posted something on Reddit where I got a lot of responses of people who actually went there. Um, so I'll start with another one. Someone actually said that the farmer actually took his children and the woman out to the barn that's right next there. There you can still see the barn's super old, just like the house. It's crumbling, and hung them and then gutted them like deer, is what one redditor said to me. And then another one was actually from our good buddy Nate from work. He heard that it actually used to be a courthouse, and the barn is actually where they used to hang people at. and that's why there's a lot of spirits there. So, a couple of things that happens supposedly when you go there is if you walk up to the house, you see that the door's actually bolted shut, that it will actually unbolt itself and let you in. Another one is if you go up to it, you'll see one of the windows crack right before your eyes. So if you turn around and turn back, it will just fix itself. Be a brand new window once again. And then another one was if you walk up to the house and the blinds open, the more blinds are open, the more unwelcome you are. Along with some sort of shadowy figure sitting there in the upper, I believe, left window would actually be staring at you. So if you go inside the house, there's a couple stories that that have been told me that if you go down the basement, a lot of people actually used to party down there and said that they heard a growl along with running down the stairs, like running from a nobody, just coming out of nowhere, which freaks people out. Like I said, our good buddy Nate from work actually witnessed that when he went there, he said. So, if you go up to the upper part of the house, some people have told me that you hear screams along with a red ring that forms on the wall. And if you go up to the red ring and touch it, it's like if it was new paint and it would actually stain your fingers. That was one of the people, like, they're actually, I heard that from 3 different people that don't know each other. So that was one of them that I thought was very interesting. Another one was somebody actually saw wooden blocks there, like the wooden blocks that children play with, stack itself.
Interesting.
And what else? And a lot of people say if you walk around to the back, you'll hear some wailing too as well. And a lot of times people would claim that if you go into there, you'll feel that the demon's still there that possessed the man that murdered his family. If I walk up open doors, I ain't going in. I agree.
I don't believe Bert for a second on this. I think he's in. And he's in because Heather pushed him in. But still.
Well, I've done some quick looking. This house is now occupied, so you cannot
Yes.
go.
Yeah.
So.
It's actually being renovated. I was actually gonna say that. Like, I actually was told that it actually is being renovated and actually looks pretty nice now.
There's a part of me that loves that, the rehab of a dilapidated property or an aged property.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's another part of me is like, I blame the real estate agent for not telling me this. Like,
Yeah.
These are questions you should ask about every old house.
Like, is there a haunting here?
Yeah.
And then say maybe.
Yeah, I'm sure as a real estate agent, you get good at skirting the some of those questions.
Yeah.
So, and Bird thinks he would be pushed in.
Yeah. I mean, she'd be right behind you, so you're not alone, but still.
Yep.
Oh my gosh.
That would be an interesting one to go see.
Yeah. I was by it, I think, back in 2020, back when I was, working for Fox. I was actually up there for a store, and I was going by. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go by there and check it out. It was still like that. That was actually one of the pictures I took when I was there with my phone. I did zoom up pretty far, but there was also a trailer out there too, so that's why I knew, somebody was either living in that trailer there or was, getting ready for that property to be, redone for something. But it is actually pretty, secluded area. Like, the nearest house beside that is probably about, I'd say, 500 to 1,000 yards away. It's it's pretty far from houses in Lancaster County.
Sure, it's a good lot size.
Yeah,
well, you did something that you're supposed to do, and that's not put yourself in a place where you could get in trouble or have something happen to you. Like that's really. We advise this for everybody as well. We do public events. You've been there. At the end, we say, be smart about this. Get permission. Don't ask forgiveness. Kind of thing. Because and tell people where you're going. That kind of stuff. Because you start walking around the place, and then somebody busts out of the trailer.
start
And with
Mhm.
something aimed at you, you could be in big trouble.
Mhm.
Or the police show up, of course,
Yeah.
which certainly can happen. Um,
Yeah, a
you know,
lot of the stories that I got on
none of
Reddit.
that stuff's worth it.
Yeah, a lot of the stories I got from Reddit was, "Hey, we got parked around the back so no one would see us." Okay.
Oh,
And Heather is a real estate agent, so as an agent, you do not legally have to disclose hauntings or
Or
deaths in the
decimals.
house. All right, now I get the legally part of it, but what if someone asks you the question, like point blank, "Hey, anybody died here?
Good
Any
question.
reports of ghosts? That kind of stuff. What do you do then?" That's
Yeah,
the question I have.
yeah, that is a good question.
All right.
All right, so I guess moving on from Central PA, Crossroads Cemetery tombstones. This is actually in Allegheny County. I believe that's out towards Pittsburgh, right?
yep.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yep.
Out towards Pittsburgh. This is actually by Blue Miss Road, which is pretty notorious for a lot of hauntings. So, from what my understanding is, a lot of this legend started in the 1970s, and it started with kind of an innocent kind of legend where it was, two lovers that died, and the tombstones were starting to go into each other so they could kiss each other as a little bit of a romance. But when 1990s came around and there was Y2K, the legend changed up a little bit. The legend changed to, what if those tombstones would ever touch, the world would end. But quickly after, I saw it quickly after 2012, after the world was supposed to end, that it changed right back to the kissing legend, that the ghosts would rise on a full moon and try and kiss each other, or the tombstones would just try and kiss each other in general because they miss each other. That was it was pretty fun when I was like looking up. It was like, oh yeah, kissing, and then okay, doomsday. Doomsday. We're gonna go right to that.
Mm-hmm.
That was a very interesting one. I actually got to look at what those names and those gravestones are, but this one was kind of like one where I was just kind of looking on Penn Live for hauntings, and I found those that I was like, this is actually pretty different from a lot of things
Mm-hmm.
I've heard, especially so far that tonight. It's just like that's more innocent compared to like scary or death or anything like that. I mean, until you get to the doomsday part, that gets a little bit dark.
But everything, 1998 on to 2000, everything was about the end, the world ending.
Mm-hmm.
In Y2K. So why not? It's just capitalizing on the fever of the time,
Yeah,
and it gave it some legs. So
yeah,
brought some attention to this as well.
and
So
and I guess like from what I read, Blue Miss Road is like notorious for a bunch of hauntings. And when I was reading the article, the guy said, he goes, "I've never proven any of these legends, but every time I went to Blue Miss Road, something weird happened." It's like that place of that being around that place gives it some credibility for
Mm-hmm.
stuff to happen.
yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
All right, what we got next? I
Well,
believe it is.
we're out of pictures, so
That's all right. So I believe it was the next was the Legend of the Hounds.
yep.
This one is another favorite of mine. So this actually was a poem that was actually based off a legend. So the poem goes: there's this furnace master up at Colebrook that had these hounds, and he would go hunting with these hounds. But other than that, he was very cruel to people. He was cruel to the workers. Made lots of moves on a lot of the servant girls at the furnace. Also drank a lot. And he was also very terribly abusive towards the hounds that he had, except for one named Flora, and it was a completely white hound dog. But he was known to hunt a lot in state game lands 145, right up there in Lebanon County. And even when this dog Flora was so loyal to this master that even one day on a winter night, she actually went out to find him because he'd been drinking one of his favorite drinks and passed out in the freezing cold. So Flora went up to him and basically nudged, barked until he woke up, and actually led him back to safety to the furnace. And of course, it's going to be hot there, warm him up. So with these hounds, he was known with his friends how good these hounds would. He would brag about these hounds, about how good they were. So one day, his friends from Philadelphia came up, and he promised his friends, "Hey, it's going to be filled with game, and we're going to shoot a lot of these foxes or whatever they were hunting that day." But unfortunately, that day, he didn't get anything. So he actually came into a drunken rage that night, took the dogs, and threw them into the furnace. So after he he sobered up, he actually he realized what he did and had a panic and actually ended up having a heart attack and dying, I think, by a servant woman. So that's where the first legend starts. But they said after that, because of his bad deeds, he became this thing which is called the Eternal Hunter, or in PA Dutch pagan legends from over in Germany, it's called the Eeuwige Jeha, which is try to say that 10 times fast. Um, he became that, and now in State Game Lands 145, he haunts that. And in that legend of the Eternal Hunter, he hunts forever because of his bad deeds. Now that's one side of the story. The factual information, which is actually really cool, was when the poem was written. It was actually written by a Henry H. Boker back in the late 1800s, and back then it was pretty obvious like who this person was, because it's actually based off of someone named Samuel Jacobs, who was an owner, who was the furnace master of the Colebrook Furnace, who was known for his drinking and his cruelty. Now, back then with furnaces, it was actually owned by someone else, but he was hired because he would have someone better skills to run these furnaces. So his family actually found out about this and this poem, and actually burned all the copies up till 1900s, when it was actually then republished around 1929, which is the one I got right now. It's about almost 100 years old. There's only about 800 of them, and his family was basically out to destroy all of this right here. And I actually went to talk to one of the librarians up at Lebanon, near the area, and found that yes, there was a Samuel Jacobs right by Colebrook that's buried there. So that was very interesting. That there's a lot of influence in this poem, and how he became this spiritual entity. And let's see here. And there's actually another story in Lancaster County that actually correlates with this one a little bit. Now, this one was another one where I was looking up this Legend of the Hounds up at Colebrook and accidentally stumbled upon it. So this one has to do with a man named Jacob Brewster. So Jacob Brewster was very known for his horse riding and, of course, his hounds that he had riding there. So one day he exclaimed that he could get to New York on his horse at 12 miles an hour with his hounds in 3 days. So started off pretty good. He made his way up to about, I think, northeast PA, when he was actually ambushed by Native Americans and was killed. Now, with that, it is said that in Lancaster County, mostly by Hammer Creek, excuse me, Hammer Creek, you can actually see him riding around at night as the Eternal Hunter, as in this story. So in the pagan ritual of the Eternal Hunter, which comes from the Wild Hunt and German legend, most of the time this Eternal Hunter actually sacrifices himself to create fruitfulness for the town that they lived at. And the Eternal Hunter would basically, bring animals in so hunters could hunt them, where make harvests better. Now, Jacob Brewster was a little bit like that, and it said that in Lancaster County he brings, you know, game to Lancaster County, like deer, squirrels, whatever you name it. But yeah, when I was looking up, they said a lot of times you'll see him around Hammer Creek, and other stories say that the only people that can really actually see him is if you're born on Christmas Eve or Day, one of those two, which is interesting because that's a little bit different compared to a lot of other stories with the Eternal Hunter. Usually it's just that fruitfulness, but the whole Christmas thing kind of gives a little bit of a, a screwball to it.
Hmm.
That's another favorite of mine that I, dug into for a while and then found out about this Jacob Brewster, and it's very, very interesting.
Cool. Yeah, Bert made a comment a little bit ago saying that the dogs were one of the stories of the Gretna Playhouse, which it was cool the way they portrayed that.
Yeah. I was just thinking the same thing as soon as you got to the name Cora. I think was even the character, the dog's name in the vignette.
Mm-hmm.
But Gretna did Whispers in the Dark
Yeah.
for their holiday presentation. Um, Several stops along a walking path. One of them was outside the theater with like a door. The door would be the furnace space, and a foreman, I think, for the master was telling the story of the dogs, and the non-hunt occurred, and the dogs he had to put the dogs into the furnace and broke his heart.
Yeah.
That was one of the best parts of that, actually, Chad. I know you saw it as well, and the Lynches were there. So that was a
great story.
Nice connection to call back to that from here.
Yeah.
So
yeah, very cool.
Yeah, I think we have one more story.
Yep.
Sure.
Which one was that? I gotta look it up.
That was Legend of the Gnats.
Legend of Gnats. Yes, that's one. That actually comes from Clearfield County. Now, it was actually founded by a principal up in Clearfield, and he actually got it from one of the Native Americans that lived around there. So the legend of the gnats has to do with why you see this insect around, which it's pretty interesting how the Native Americans made this legend. And back then, up in that area, the Susquehanna is actually called Octinachin, which means demon's den. So to me, it's like what was going on there for them to actually call them the demon's den. So in that area, there was actually a split off of the river that created this peak of land where supposedly this Native American sorcerer would live. Now, a lot of Native Americans around the area were actually afraid to even go close to this guy because apparently he would go up on to one of the big rocks and start chanting every single night, causing chaos, trying to make a curse, whatever. Until there was a warrior that was actually brave enough and found this land, was like, this is actually pretty cool. I'm going to make this my spot. And he actually got a wife there, and there's plenty of water, plenty of animals, plenty of great place to live. But there was only one problem: the sorcerer, which he heard about. Well, here's the thing: this guy was brave. He decided to be braver than any of the Native Americans up there. And one night, when the sorcerer was up on this rock chanting, he came up to him and got super scared, almost actually ran, and then got his warrior's courage back, pulled his bow, and shot the sorcerer right in the heart, and he fell. Now, after that, he actually was still scared because he thought even after he killed the sorcerer that, something would, curse would come upon him or something because, he thought a spirit would come back and curse him. So he took the body, brought it back to where he lived, built a fire, and threw the body in the fire. So after a while, the body started turning to ash, and the ash started to grow wings, and became millions and millions of gnats coming after him, biting him, and stinging him. And after that, they say the gnats went into the forest, and that's how gnats became in the world, which is an incredible story. Very, very, very cool, in my opinion.
Cool.
Yeah.
So that's the moral of that story is don't burn a body or you're going to make millions of gnats.
Yeah, yeah. That's
Don't kill sorcerers.
don't yeah,
Yeah.
don't kill sorcerers. They'll turn to something and get you.
Mm-hmm.
There's that moral part
Yeah.
of it. The moral to the story is this,
Mm-hmm.
and it's an if then as well. Huh.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
So, Jamie, you challenged Bert to something.
I did.
You did. So, I do have a video to share now.
Oh,
If you watch the lower right hand corner, there's something that shows up. He said it looked more blue on the original video, but this is what we've got now. So, we'll roll this and see what we find. This was from the Haldeman Mansion. So, here we go.
all right.
And he and Missy and somebody else was in here, and they were like, the blue light, and we're like, yeah, it's us. I'm like, no, it's not, because our light was shining through like here in this crack and over here, a little bit in the woodwork.
So there were a couple little flashes in the lower right hand corner. I don't know if you caught them.
Mm-hmm.
So, but Bert apologized for being so dark. But
Sorry.
Yeah, who
you were standing in
investigates
the dark talking to yourself. So,
That's what we do.
Hashtag ghost stuff.
Good stuff.
so
Thanks, Bert. I should know better than to call you out.
but no, it's interesting how these stories that you shared, they cluster together. You did a good job of clustering them together, like all the bridge stuff, and it seems to be the same old story with bridges, and the furnaces. There always seems to be a story of something was put in it that shouldn't have been put in it, and it's just and does that come back to the bridge ones? It's hard to come up with a moral to the story, I think.
Yeah.
But the furnaces, it's obviously be careful around the furnaces.
Mhm.
Don't get angry around the furnaces, or you'll be sorry for what you do.
Yeah.
Well, the other, don't get drunk, so
Yeah.
you're drunk, blackout drunk, like that's the bad behavior,
Mm-hmm.
behavior modifier to
Yeah.
not get you to do that.
Yeah, sawmills again is be careful. You don't want to lose a limb.
Yeah.
So, but I'm sure you could dig into almost any of these covered bridges in Lancaster County, which there's 28 remaining.
28 Marine. Okay.
There used to be over 100.
Yep, there was a lot.
Just
I
in
remember
Lancaster
seeing that. Okay.
but there's 28 remaining now. So, yeah.
And my thought to this is, looking at the list that I have in front of me, there's 7 things that are characteristics, and all of them got touched upon in the various stories.
Mhm.
Not all at once necessarily, but they're and they shouldn't all be. I guess that would be fantastic if it could happen, but it's not realistic. But most there was a weaving of all of them, and all of these characteristics were touched upon, which helps reinforce the premise that
Mhm.
these are stories that are sensational, but they're somewhat believable, and
Yeah.
and they're plausibly believable.
Right.
So and there's not going to be a lot. There's volume 4 coming, I guess. Now Bert's going to do that episode. There's a thought. There's definitely some truths in it. There's fiction. The fantastic part of it is the fiction. They're unverifiable in most cases because and most of these old ones are just not documentation.
Right.
Yeah,
They're just not good
absolutely.
records, and that's okay, I guess. I guess that's what it was. There's a story, and the story is always the hook, the part that pulls you in, and there's relevance and some kind of and cultural relevance for that matter. So but they're all there. Like that's neat, and that's I think what brings us back to these stories over and over and over and over again. Parents tell their kids, the kids grow up and tell their kids, those kids grow up and tell their kids, and we just keep rolling these stories forward, and to me that's really cool because we don't have that anymore. We don't have this oral tradition stuff anymore because everything's so digital.
You can flip on it.
Right.
Click a button.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, I'm sure it is all available digitally now. Where we can video ourselves. We're videoing ourselves
Yeah.
doing this now, But the idea that you'd sit around a campfire in the day, and or around the table and tell these tales, and that's kind of fun. That's not quite a lost art, but it's getting lost.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, that's what makes it.
thanks for putting this all together. I guess that's really where I want to end that out. Thank you. It was really cool.
All right, thank you for having me.
Yeah, we'll do it again.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah,
Absolutely.
I can always find more. I mean, there's a couple I'm still looking at right now that is new to me. So
Well, I want to say one more thing to you, Corey, and I mean this. I mean, I know you, and we carry on a lot, but I really, I really encourage you to write this book, whatever it is going to be. Go do it.
it's
Like
completely fictional. So it's like
it's okay.
it's
Even if it's a compilation, like just put this stuff together somewhere, and I'll buy one. So
Same.
you got one sale. Um,
yeah.
this is the kind of stuff that you know leads to more things.
Yes.
And you know this because you're doing the research on all these different things. But even for us, you know, we're here, all of us, and all of us for a reason. And these repositories, any repository place for information, and it's easy. I'm sitting here, I have a stack of books next to me, but I could come back to this one. One in Vermont. I go to Vermont a lot. We were
Yeah.
just up there for Wilson Castle. I did not pick it up there, but um, it's broken into the regions of the state. I've got another one for the Big Book of Pennsylvania Ghost Stories. And it's broken into the regions
Yeah.
of the state. Um, there's a
I
few
was
more for
showing
County America. These
yeah.
compilation tales um, really, kind of give you a lot all at once, and just a really like a digest,
Yeah.
and you can take it from there. And no one place is ever going to capture everything.
Yes.
So hence, keep getting more and more and more material. It's really great.
Yeah, I
Um,
was I
Let
was
me answer
showing
this question real quick. Yes,
oh yeah,
Heather. Corey has been to Booby's Brewery, actually.
yeah.
Not this past time, but the time before. I believe it was back in October, November.
November,
Oh,
yeah.
Yep.
November. Okay. Um, yes, the answer is yes.
I mean, I
He
was
stayed
showing
awake the whole time too. I was really proud of him.
yeah, it's because I didn't take a melatonin or anything.
Mhm.
And he also wandered. He got locked in a cell at uh, West Virginia
Oh
State
yeah,
New
Penitentiary.
penitentiary. Yep.
he showed you that video.
He
Rite of
told me.
passage.
Got stuck in with Nate, unfortunately. I'm just kidding.
I've been in that cell too, so I know what that feels like.
Yeah. It's kind of like at first you're like, oh, this is pretty cool. And you're like, all right, I kind of want
I'm
to get out.
done. 12 seconds went by the way.
Yeah, I know. I was like, okay, this is a little long, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's all right.
I think all of us but Heather were.
Yeah. Anyway.
So anyway, Corey, thank you for putting
Yeah,
it together. I appreciate you coming on.
absolutely. Yeah,
Kirstin,
thank you.
any thoughts or on all this?
No, this is great. I mean, it's great to tell stories and hopefully give some stories out there that people haven't heard about. That's my main reason to do all this. Usually, is find the stuff that no one's ever heard about because you hear all the big stuff all the time, especially on YouTube and TikTok and stuff like that. It's always like same stuff, same stuff, same stuff.
Hmm.
I want to find the stuff that's hard. I want to find the stuff that people take a look at and are like, wait, that's different, or that's new, something like
Hmm.
that. That's just why I like doing it. And if I can bring that to whoever, that gives a bit more meaning to my life, honestly.
Cool.
I mean, yeah, the Hell House. I've driven by there and had no idea that there was a story to it. So I find this really fascinating, especially to like learn all of these different legends that are around me.
Yeah, yeah, especially Lancaster. It's just like it just feels like I just keep finding stuff. Even with you, Jamie, you've told me stuff before where I'm like, I've never heard of that, and it builds up. And even with people like Uncharted Lancaster, like they found stuff where I'm like, where did you even begin to find that?
I,
It's tough. It's really tough sometimes.
You gotta love Uncharted Lancaster. And for those who aren't familiar, it's a website. It's a repository website of local lore and stories and just really cool stuff. Not
Yeah.
all paranormal, of course. Some of it's just historical evidence and such, but Google it, you'll find it pretty quickly. I think it's unchartedlancaster.com or .org,
Yeah.
maybe, because it's a nonprofit.
Yeah.
They have in the warmer months, they have an annual kind of a geocaching
Mm-hmm.
event where they'll have a place that they tell you where to go, and then there'll be map points along the way, clues along the way to get to the next point. At the end, there's some
Yeah.
kind of a prize that you could take away. Now, it's usually a 3D printed object, so it's not treasure per se, but it is treasure because you found it.
Yeah.
Um, I remember doing it down at the uh, Safe Harbor Park and
Yeah.
going back through the woods, back through the trails and everything. It's all on public land. It's nothing. No one's trespassing. Nothing's illegal.
Yeah.
Uh, but it's a good way to spend an afternoon,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
and you get outside and you do something,
Yeah.
which is really cool. And it took the kids; they loved it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We
as
actually found a lot of good research on. I don't know if you guys have ever been to Shanks Fair yet.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
That
Yeah.
one's that one you can investigate all you want. It's actually open 24/7. Actually, I went there at night the one time. Didn't try the legend though. Didn't do that. That was actually the one where I actually ended up in Maryland because back in high school, it was said to be a plantation. It was not that. It was,
Maybe your sense of direction just totally sucks.
I was the one driving, Jamie.
I'm saying maybe. I don't know.
No, okay, maybe sometimes.
I'm not judging.
Only
I get lost
sometimes.
too. Well, you know what? You're never really lost that way. You're just having an adventure.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
It's about the journey.
it's a
Yeah.
journey. Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah.
Jeff.
So
I remember being younger, and that's how we figured out how to get to places was just going on a road and seeing where it takes you. So,
Mhm.
you just found out where that road goes. That's all.
Yep. Remember when I had a motorcycle, just get on a road and go, and
Yeah.
wherever you ended up, yeah,
Yeah.
that was the way to do it.
A non-directional road trip.
Mm-hmm.
Just see ya. We'll be back.
And you'd get home at some point.
Yeah.
Always find your way back. Yes.
I actually have a good funny story for you guys about Hunsaker with the Amish girl legend.
Mm-hmm.
Here's something that was pretty funny. I actually was down at the Pinetown Bridge, and I wasn't sure at the time which bridge it was, so I actually flew my drone up. Well, in the middle of me putting my drone up, the app started going off. Well, I found out the hard way that was actually airplane airspace. So my drone tried to land in the water, so I had to jump out and get it. So here's me waist deep trying to get this drone, but I thought that'd be just a little funny add to that. To me trying to find out this haunted location and something weird happening.
Well, because Hunziker's, that's the one near the airport, the Lidditz Airport, right?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's relatively close.
It was not happy that I was there. Started beeping and everything, and all this red stuff started popping. I'm like, what's going on? And it said emergency landing, and it's like, oh no, this is not the right place.
Cool.
Well, this was only waist deep.
Yeah.
Could have been worse.
Yeah.
Be worse.
Well, cool.
All right. Well, Corey, thank you. This was really cool, and I'm anytime you want to bend my ear about anything, feel free. You know where to find me, and I'll find you too. Either way, but
Yeah.
so we'll do this again somewhere down the line. No worries.
Sounds good to me. Yeah. Thank you.
All right.
All right.
So we have a little bit of business to cover as far as outro stuff. So if you'll hold tight, we'll park you in the green room for a moment. We'll catch up with you
That's good.
at the end of that. So, but
All right.
again, thanks so much.
And thank you, Corey. Talk to you
Thank
soon.
you.
Yep.
Oh wow, that was fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, next week, we're going to be talking about The Keeper's Last Steps, The Haunting of St. Augustine's Lighthouse, which Chad did get to go and experience and see.
Yep.
So that's going to be fun.
Yep. I might have Alex on next week to talk about it too, because we both did an investigation there.
Cool.
So,
Awesome.
Is this your picture, by the way?
no, I wish this was my picture, but
It's a nice photo.
That's pretty
yeah.
cool.
I do have some pictures from the lighthouse that I'll share next week, but
Yeah.
this is not one of them. So cool.
All right. Other upcoming episodes is on the 23rd. It is going to be my first one, which is Yuletide Judge, The Tales of Belsnickel. December 30th, Caught in a Time Slip. That's Fact or Folklore. I'm not sure who's covering that one.
That would be me.
Chad.
Mm-hmm.
And then January 6th, No Escape, The Spirits of Spike Island. And I believe that's Jamie.
It is. It is.
Got it.
So, yeah. So, and then you're going to have something on the 13th then, right?
I'm going to be doing The Hauntings of Hampton Court.
Cool.
Okay.
So we're going to go just a little international. Coming up, we are also going to be doing the Hanover Tavern Paracon. It is January 30th to 31st. And we're going to be there with Steve Dills, who's going to be running it.
Yep. Yeah. Speaking of road trips, we're hitting the road for our own. So
Yeah.
I think this may, well, no, I guess this is our second official road trip, isn't it, Jamie?
yeah. Well, as far as being at a vendor, for lack of a better way of calling it, yes, we did Crescent's Paracon earlier this year. So this is our first out of state trip.
Mm-hmm. And as a full team now, because
Yeah.
So
cool. So, and then here you go.
Ways to contact us, you can go to www.jotnixparanormal.com, email paranormallenspodcast@gmail.com, or go to Linktree, linktr.ee/paranormallens. So those are ways to contact us.
Cool. Yeah. So always looking for an email with story ideas or what
Absolutely.
you want to do or anything like that. So reach out. Happy to follow up on it. So.
Yep. We're always ready to do it, and done it before. We're always going to do it again. So please let us know what you're interested in. We'll cover it here.
Yep. So it's a pretty interesting episode. Any final thoughts?
Corey's the man. So way to pull it together.
And you get to work with him every weekday, Jamie.
I do, and I try to avoid him every chance I get.
I say it
because I know he can hear me. But
I can see him laughing in the green room. So
he is easily one of my favorite people because I could talk to somebody all the time about paranormal stuff. And that's super cool because there's not everybody out there. Like we all don't have that person where we're at all day long. Although there's probably a lot of people who are interested but won't tell us, because it's that thing. But it's never shy. And then what a fun road trip we had out to Cincinnati and back. He and Nate and I, you alluded to Nate, our coworker, we were all in the vehicle together. I'm sure Nate at one point was like, "Can you guys just shut up?" But we didn't. But a lot of conversation around it, all kinds of different stuff. So it's always fun to have this, the person who's in the interest of you around and who's just as excited as you are, and this elevates your interests and, gives you more things to think about, talk about, get to, and do. All of these things, all of these urban legends or places, and they all have real stories. And I think that's the fun part of it. How fantastic are the stories now over time and expansion and, embellishment. That's I guess maybe the suspect part of it, but they all came from a truth somewhere. And, that just gives me a moment to pause to wonder how many more things are there. And that's the really cool part about this field in general is that we'll never know it all or experience it all. So we got to keep going.
Yep. Jamie, that was the perfect segue into my wrap-up statement for tonight. So thank you. You did it. So
Good job.
Local legends don't survive because they're unbelievable. They survive because someone, somewhere, experienced something they couldn't explain. Thanks to Corey for joining us as we explore the thin line between myth and memory. As always, stay alert, stay respectful, and stay curious. Good night.